there has been some justice involving an Airbnb host who discriminated against an Asian American guest by canceling her trip last minute. Now, this story actually occurred back in February. So there was a snowstorm in Big Bear where the host has this property. And a woman by the name of Dyne Suh was driving through this snowstorm to get to the property and enjoy a little time off, a little break with her friends. Well, at that point, apparently she called the host and things took a turn for the worst. Dyne Suh had driven in a snowstorm to the Airbnb rental near Big Bear, California. The host canceled the reservation as Suh was close to arriving and texted her, quote, "I wouldn't rent to you if you were the last person on earth. One word says it all, Asian." And then she basically responded with, well, I'm gonna let Airbnb know that you are discriminating against me and you're racist. And his response, or her response, by the way, the host is a woman. "It's why we have Trump, and I will not allow this country to be told what to do by foreigners."
You know, we cover these stories, and yet to this late date, every once in a while I still get shocked. Who hates Asians this much?
It's fascinating. But look, I started this story by saying that there's been some justice and Airbnb did take some action. And in fact, since this is in California, lawmakers in California or officials in California took some action. So as a result, she will have to apologize to Suh, comply with anti-discrimination laws, attend training, take a college level course in Asian American studies, participate in a community education panel, perform volunteer service at a civil rights organization, report rental data to the department for 4 years, and also pay $5,000 in damage. And the department that I'm talking about is the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And so I love this state, okay? Some of you right wingers are probably watching this like, California sucks. Good, stay away from us.
They won't even let me just hate on Asians.
Yeah.
So let's understand why they did this. So you have your First Amendment right to hate Asians all you like and say it and say, oh, now because of Trump, I can hate you even more. Have at it, Hoss. But if you're running a business, you're not allowed to discriminate based on race. You know the whole thing about the civil rights movement, how they couldn't sit in some of the counters at some of the stores, and had all these different rules applied to them because they were African Americans. Well, that was the whole point of among the many points of the civil rights movement is that you can't do that. You can't have separate water fountains for colored people, as they used to say back then, and white people. So no, you can't say I'm going to rent my house out as part of a business enterprise, but I won't rent it to blacks or Jews or Asians or anything. And here, you cannot have a clear admission of guilt than one word says it all, Asian.
So I use Airbnb, right? I like Airbnb a lot. And I feel like when you are sharing your information in order to rent a place, you disclose quite a bit. There's a photo involved, your name is involved. I mean, I don't know if this is an insensitive thing to say, but Dyne Suh doesn't really sound like a white name, right? So I don't understand why this host, first of all, it doesn't matter if you can identify the person's race or not. You're not allowed to discriminate based on laws, right? But why last minute, as she's driving through a snowstorm, did this host decide to cancel? Like really, you didn't know this person was Asian to begin with?
One, if you're that ignorant, I mean, where does your ignorance end? She might not have noticed it. Second of all, she might have been drunk. And so, like, I'm serious. It's like the middle of the night. She's like, oh, I'm not gonna let that. I said yes, but I don't want it. I don't want this stinking Asian in my house, right? Remember, it's
then don't rent your property out. Don't rent your property out. You don't like it, then don't rent it out. Okay, you don't get to pick and choose which race stays in your property.
But kind of, because it still does happen, and particularly for black, users of Airbnb, they're overwhelmingly declined when they apply for housing. And I think Airbnb has to revise, the standards by which you can apply for. I don't know. I don't Airbnb because I don't want to be discriminated against. Because when you go to get a hotel, you don't have to. You can just check in, right? So there's no opportunity for that discrimination. But also, I don't want to stay in anyone's house who's racist because I don't want you to have my money. So this is kind of like, I'm glad she didn't stay there, right?
Yeah.
So Airbnb knows there's a problem and they're trying to address it, and it looks like they're trying hard to ameliorate the problem. In this particular case, they said, look, we're gonna refund your money immediately, plus we will give you a voucher for hotel rooms for Suh and her friends. So it's not us, and we're gonna try to help in every way that we can as a company. But this is what people talk about when they say white privilege, because until we were having this conversation, I hadn't thought about it. If you'd asked me, do you think African Americans would get discriminated against at Airbnb, you would have forced me to think about that for the first time. And I would have probably said, oh yeah, oh wow, I bet they do, based on all the other stories we've done about the resumes and the eBay, and if they see a black hand versus a white hand, and it's all those different studies that have been done, right? But I never thought about it, because I didn't live that experience. Whereas Amber, you think about that the first thing, right? Because everybody that you've had this experience, other people have had this experience. So I never thought, hey, I can go to an Airbnb or a hotel, it's my choice. Whereas for you, it's less of a choice, or you perceive that it's less of a choice. And boom, that already is a privilege I had that I didn't know I had. It doesn't mean I'm rich, it doesn't mean that I live in the lap of luxury, it doesn't mean anything other than I have it a little bit better than you and I didn't even know it.
Sure. I mean, do you feel like you received the privilege of being?
Oh, they know when they see Cenk Uygur,
right?
They say, "Boom, you're in, buddy." No, in all seriousness, though, I mean, my name is indecipherable and unpronounceable,
right?
So they don't know it's Cenk Uygur, and they see my wife's name, Wendy Lang. Could be Jewish, could be Chinese, could be anything, right? So we have not felt it. Doesn't mean that we didn't experience it, or or that something happened and we didn't see it.
Right.
But I say this all the time. I'm super lucky. Until recently, I almost never faced discrimination because people couldn't quite figure out what I was. Or maybe I was super lucky and I had good people around me, and I know that I grew up in a great place in New Jersey where it was very multicultural, etc. But I haven't felt any of the kind of discrimination that African Americans feel on a regular basis.
I was only discriminated against once on Airbnb, and it was by a Turkish host.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, man.
So I requested a property for my in-laws when they were coming to Los Angeles, and I saw you see the person's identity, which is why it's like surprising to me that this host didn't know that the woman was Asian. But anyway, yeah, Kasparian is a super Armenian last name, and so I applied for it, and super friendly. I have like a good rating on Airbnb, whatever.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, immediately declined me.
Jeez.
I'm not gonna blow the place up, dude. Like, just relax.
Right.
But anyway,
wow.
I mean, I didn't.
We don't know for sure, but it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then finally, look on this story. There is a little bit of a good ending, not because she got fined and she has to go to these classes against her will. From what they describe of her reaction, it appears that it was a little bit of a learning experience. It reminds me of the story we did yesterday of the guy who was yelling the bigoted stuff to Muslims on the highway in Oregon, and then he was so remorseful afterwards because he got a sense of like, God, that was so stupid. Why was I doing that? They're just regular Americans like me, and so I like that maybe. We didn't instead of being like, that's work, that's it. It's not a $5,000 fine, it's a $50,000 fine. And we're gonna bankrupt you and take your house. It was more like, let's talk about it, let's learn from it. And it seems like she's open to that. So if we expanded her way of thinking for a second and she's into it, then that's great. That's great news. I think that's the right way to handle it.
I'm skeptical.
If you like this video, you'll love the whole TYT network. Check it out at tytnetwork.com/join.